The orbital relic drifted silently in the blackness of space, its metal hull scratched and scarred from centuries of neglect. Most ships avoided it, claiming it was cursed or haunted by ancient spirits. But today, the relic would host something far stranger than rumors. A shadow stretched across its surface, larger than any vessel stationed nearby. Vorthyrix the Eternal, an ancient dragon whose scales shimmered like molten metal, crash-landed with a groan that shook the hollow corridors inside. His wings, torn and battered, could no longer lift him, and his breathing came in slow, labored gusts that sent clouds of sparks into the air. Above, the trade station's alarms blared, alerting humans and aliens alike. Ships scrambled in panic. Many believed the dragon had come to conquer, to demand tribute, or to declare war after centuries of silence. Galactic records described him as a force of devastation, a living weapon whose name was erased from history because it carried too much power. No species remembered his true name, and most did not care to know. The galaxy had moved on. Inside the relic, Vorthyrix's enormous head lowered, his eyes searching the darkness with desperation. He whispered a name, a single, fragile sound that no human or alien aboard the station could understand. He repeated it, over and over, like a prayer, afraid it might vanish with him. His voice was deep, resonant, and trembling with age. Elias. The station commander, a tall, sharp-eyed alien named Torvash, peered at the communication screens, trying to make sense of the strange readings. He is saying something. We cannot hear him. Prepare to respond. The diplomats, dressed in flowing robes and adorned with insignia, argued heatedly. We cannot let him live here. He could destroy the entire sector, one of them shouted. Or worse, he may be dying. Perhaps he seeks something, only one species can help, another said cautiously. No one on the station understood the urgency of his words. No one except one human, moving quietly along the maintenance corridors far below the glittering decks above. Elias Rowan pushed his mop across the floor, his eyes tired, his hands rough from work no one appreciated. The alarms reached him, but he barely flinched. Yet when a faint sound vibrated through the relic's metal walls, he froze. It was a voice. Old, fragile, yet impossibly alive. It spoke a name, his name, though he could not believe it. He had learned it long ago, as a child, during a day no one remembered. A dragon had hidden him in the ruins of a destroyed planet, saving him from certain death. He had never told anyone, not even his family. The name had been a secret between him and the dragon, a bond formed in fear and trust. And now, the dragon was calling for him across the void of space. Elias hesitated, feeling a strange heat in his chest. He knew that stepping forward would mean leaving his small, safe world. The other humans, the aliens, the diplomats, they would not understand. They would think him crazy. But the sound of the dragon's voice, weak and fading, pushed him forward. He dropped the mop, grabbed a small tool belt, and began moving toward the relic's lower docking bay, each step echoing in the empty corridor. The galactic forces above panicked as ships hovered around the relic. Torvash barked orders. Hold your position. Do not approach. The dragon may attack. But the dragon did not attack. His enormous eyes, like pools of molten gold, scanned the station desperately, seeking one face among billions who could recognize him, who could speak his name aloud and bring life back to a body on the verge of death. Elias reached the docking bay just as a loud groan filled the air. The dragon's body shuddered, sparks flying from cracks along his scales. His wings twitched feebly, unable to lift, and his massive tail scraped the metal floor, leaving deep gouges. Elias, please, the dragon whispered. The sound was so fragile it could have been carried away by the vacuum outside. Only, no. The soldiers in the bay raised their weapons, trembling. They did not understand. The diplomats waved their hands, shouting orders that mixed with the dragon's voice. Yet Elias stepped forward calmly, as if all his life had led him to this moment. He could see the dragon's scales, dull with age but still glowing faintly where the heat of life lingered. He saw the pain in his eyes, the weight of centuries, the quiet desperation for something no one else remembered. He swallowed and spoke, barely louder than a whisper. Vorthyrix. I remember. The dragon's massive head lifted slightly, eyes locking onto Elias. A shiver passed through the relic as if the universe itself had paused. The name, spoken by the human, held power no weapon could match. For a moment, the dragon's breathing eased. Sparks of energy ran along his scales, not in anger, but in recognition and relief. He lowered his head slowly, pressing it toward Elias as though the years of fear, of being hunted and forgotten, were lifted by this one human voice. All around, the station fell silent. The diplomats could not speak. The soldiers did not know whether to attack or flee. The galaxy, in all its vastness and chaos, had forgotten the dragon's name, but not this human. Elias had remembered, and in remembering, he held something no one else could. The power of trust, the power of memory, the quiet strength of a human who saw the world not in titles, but in bonds. The dragon whispered again, weaker now, but with hope. You came. Elias nodded, feeling an odd warmth fill him, even as fear lingered. I did. I will stay. I will not let you die alone. Vortherix exhaled slowly, smoke curling from his nostrils. Sparks danced across his broken scales, and a deep rumble of contentment filled the docking bay. The galaxy watched, still unsure of what it had witnessed. But in that moment, above the alarms, above the chaos, a simple truth became clear. Even the oldest, most powerful beings sometimes need the smallest act of recognition, and even the most ordinary human can hold the key to the extraordinary. The dragon's eyes, golden and immense, fixed on Elias. And for the first time in centuries, Vortherix the Eternal felt hope, not for power, not for revenge, but for connection, for memory, and for the name that had not been forgotten. Elias Rowan moved carefully through the maintenance corridors beneath the station, his footsteps echoing softly on the metal floor. The alarms above had grown louder, but down here, it was quiet, almost peaceful. He carried only his tool belt and a small flashlight, yet every nerve in his body was alert. He had never imagined that one day, a dragon, an ancient being feared across the galaxy, would call for him. Yet here he was, drawn by a name he had whispered in secret as a child. He remembered that day clearly, though no one else did. He had been hiding in the ruins of a destroyed planet when a young Vortherix had found him. The dragon had been injured, weak, and desperate. Elias had touched his scaled snout, spoken the name aloud to calm him, and kept him safe. That memory had been buried for years, locked away under the life of a janitor, swept clean like the floors he polished. Now, the name he had learned so long ago was all that mattered. Above, diplomats and soldiers scrambled, shouting orders that Elias could barely hear. They treated the dragon as a threat, a monster, or a weapon. None of them understood what he was doing. None of them knew that names carried meaning, that memory could be stronger than fear. They argued over who should lead, who should negotiate, and who would survive if the dragon decided to fight. But Elias ignored them. Every step brought him closer to the docking bay where Vortherix waited, his massive head lowered and breathing uneven. The corridor opened to a maintenance lift that would take him to the docking bay. Elias pressed the call button, and the lift shuddered to life. He gripped the railing as it rose, feeling a strange mix of fear and calm. His heart pounded, but it was not fear of the dragon. It was fear of failure, of forgetting, of letting the last of an ancient being's hope slip away. The lift doors opened to reveal the docking bay, chaos swirling around him. Soldiers pointed their weapons, diplomats gestured wildly, and sparks flew from the dragon's cracked scales. For a moment, Elias hesitated. The dragon's golden eyes found him, scanning desperately. He stepped forward, ignoring the murmurs around him. "Vortherix," he said clearly. The dragon's head lifted slightly. "I remember." A wave of relief passed over the massive creature. His eyes softened, and for a moment, the fear and tension in the bay seemed to vanish. The soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, unsure of what was happening. Diplomats froze, mouths open, trying to make sense of what they saw. But Elias only saw Vortherix, saw the weight of centuries, the longing for recognition, and the quiet hope that had not died. Vortherix exhaled a smoky breath, curling it gently around Elias as if to welcome him. "You came," he whispered. The sound trembled, weak but full of meaning. Elias nodded, stepping closer. "I promised. I will not leave you alone." The dragon's gaze swept the bay, scanning the humans and aliens around him. "Why do they not understand?" he asked softly. His voice was heavy with sadness and frustration. "They fear me, but only one remembers." Elias shook his head. "Most never see. They only see what they fear. But I remember you. Always." He reached out, his hand hovering near the dragon's cracked scales. The warmth from Vortherix's body was faint but real. Sparks ran across his back as the dragon shifted slightly, and Elias felt the pulse of life that had survived countless centuries. Above them, chaos continued, but down here, the world had narrowed to one moment. Elias and Vortherix alone. The dragon's head lowered a little more, allowing the human to approach closer. "So small, yet brave," Vortherix murmured. "The galaxy forgets names, but you do not. Why?" Elias smiled faintly, though his hands trembled. Because names matter. They carry memory. They carry trust. You saved me once. I will not forget. The dragon's eyes shone with something like tears, golden and deep. No one else, he whispered. His massive body trembled slightly, exhaustion threatening to take him. Only you, know me still. Elias knelt beside Vorthyrix's enormous foreleg, brushing a hand across a scale. It felt rough, metallic, yet warm beneath his palm. The dragon exhaled slowly, each breath a mix of smoke and heat. The galaxy fears what it does not understand. They will try to control me, to command me, or to destroy me. But you are not afraid, the dragon said, his voice trembling but stronger now. I'm not afraid, Elias replied simply. I see you. Not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as who you are. A low rumble ran through Vorthyrix's chest. Sparks flickered along his scales, not in anger but in relief. He shifted slightly, allowing Elias to move closer, his massive head lowering until it rested near the human's shoulder. You remember the old times, the days before war, before fear, you remember them. Elias nodded. I remember everything you taught me. The names of stars, the constellations, the quiet places you showed me. I remember your voice, even when no one else did. The dragon's eyes glimmered in the dim light of the docking bay. Then, you are the only hope left. Not for me, but for all who forget, for all who do not see. Elias felt a shiver run through him. Then let me help. I don't care what others think. You are not alone. For a moment, the galaxy outside faded. The alarms, the panic, the ships circling the relic, all disappeared. Only the human and the dragon remained. One remembered a name, one carried the trust of a lifetime. And in that bond, something extraordinary began. A bridge between species, a connection beyond fear, beyond power, beyond centuries of silence. The dragon exhaled again, slower now, as if some of the weight of ages had lifted. You are small, he said softly, almost to himself. Yet, stronger than the galaxy believes. Elias smiled faintly, looking up at the enormous creature who had once saved him. Strength is not in fear or power. It is in memory, and in trust. That is why I am here. Vorthyrix's massive head lowered fully, resting near Elias, closing his eyes for the first time in what felt like a century. Then, we begin, he whispered. And for the first time in centuries, a small human and an ancient dragon faced the galaxy together, not as master and subject, not as fear and prey, but as allies united by memory, trust, and the simple power of a name. Elias stood beside Vorthyrix, feeling the warmth of the dragon's enormous body beneath the dim lights of the docking bay. The chaos above continued, ships hovered, alarms blared, diplomats shouted, but down here, it all seemed distant. He focused only on the dragon, whose golden eyes now glimmered with recognition and trust. Elias had spoken the name, and the dragon had answered. That small act had changed everything. The soldiers and diplomats watched with disbelief. Many had never imagined a human could affect a being so old, so powerful. They whispered among themselves, unsure if this human was mad, lucky, or carrying a power they could not see. But Elias ignored them. He had no desire for fame, no desire for reward. All he wanted was to honor the promise he had made long ago. Vorthyrix lifted his massive head slowly, his cracked scales glinting as sparks of energy danced along his body. You, speak my name, he said, voice heavy and trembling. No other remembers. Why do you? Elias stepped closer, placing a hand gently on the dragon's foreleg. Because it matters, he said simply. A name is more than words. It is memory, respect, and trust. I remember you, not as a weapon or a legend, but as who you are. The dragon lowered his head until it was almost level with Elias. He exhaled, a smoky breath curling into the air. The galaxy has forgotten me. They call me extinct, dangerous, or ancient. No one sees me as I truly am. But you kneel not to fear or power, but to memory. That is rare. Elias shook his head. I do not kneel. I stand. But I see. That is all that matters. For the first time in centuries, the dragon felt something he had not known in a long while, relief. He had survived countless wars, been hunted by empires, feared by all, and yet, here was one small human who remembered. One human who trusted him not for what he could do, but for who he was. Vorthyrix's enormous eyes shone with gratitude and something like hope. The diplomats above grew impatient. We cannot allow this to continue, one of them shouted. He may still be a weapon. We must strike now. A soldier aimed a blaster, fingers trembling. "Wait," another shouted. "He is not attacking. Something is happening." Elias ignored them. He focused on the dragon, repeating the names softly under his breath. "Vorthyrix." The dragon's eyes closed for a moment, and then he spoke again. "It is not the galaxy that holds power. Power is nothing without recognition, without memory. You, remember. You give me strength." Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. The dragon was weak, yes, but not defeated. He had been hunted and feared, but the bond between them had survived. It was proof that memory could be stronger than armies, that trust could hold more weight than fear. Vorthyrix lowered his head even further, resting it near Elias's shoulder. "I should be angry," he murmured. "Angry at all who forgot, who erased my name. But, you remember. And that changes everything." Elias smiled faintly. "You are not forgotten. Not while I live. Not while anyone can speak your name with care. That is enough." The dragon rumbled deeply, a sound like distant thunder. Sparks flickered along his scales, not in aggression, but in recognition. "So, this human, this small one, stands before me, not as servant, not as soldier, but as equal. That is something no empire has ever done." Elias's hands rested lightly on the dragon's foreleg. "We do not measure greatness by size or power," he said. "We measure it by memory, by honor, by the lives we touch. You touched mine. That is why I am here." For the first time in centuries, Vorthyrix allowed himself to relax fully. His eyes glimmered with tears, golden and deep, and his enormous chest rose and fell with calm breaths. The galaxy fears strength it cannot control. They fear history it cannot rewrite. But you see me. You know me. That is more than all their fleets combined. Above, the diplomats and soldiers were still confused. They whispered urgently to one another. Some were afraid. Some were in awe. They had been raised to fear dragons, to worship or destroy them, to never imagine that one human could hold their trust. And yet, here it was. A human had done what armies could not, what empires had failed to achieve. He had knelt to memory, and in that act, he held the dragon's respect. Vorthyrix rumbled again, this time more softly. "I have lived centuries, survived countless battles, yet this small one reminds me what it means to be remembered. Names matter. Trust matters. Memory matters. All else is empty." Elias nodded, feeling the truth of those words in his bones. "That is why I came. Not for glory. Not for reward. But because someone must remember. That is enough for both of us." The dragon exhaled slowly, a curling smoke that filled the docking bay, carrying with it a sense of calm. "Then we begin," he whispered. "You will speak my name, and I will listen. That is all we need." Elias took a deep breath. "I will not stop speaking it. Not while you are here. Not while you breathe." Vorthyrix's massive head lowered fully, resting on the floor near Elias, and for a moment, they were silent together. The galaxy outside could rage, fleets could hover, and diplomats could shout, but here, in the quiet of the docking bay, the ancient dragon and the human shared a bond that no weapon, no law, and no empire could break. "You are small," the dragon murmured, "yet stronger than any who have ruled the stars. Remember that. You hold power beyond armies. You hold memory, and memory shapes worlds." Elias smiled softly, looking up at the enormous creature who had once saved him. "Then let us remember together," he said. "Names, bonds, trust, that is more than enough." The dragon's golden eyes gleamed with quiet pride and relief. "Then the galaxy will learn, one day, that memory is stronger than fear. And that humans, sometimes, know what even gods forget." And for the first time in centuries, Vorthyrix felt safe in a galaxy that had long forgotten him. He knelt, not in submission, but in trust, allowing a human to stand as his equal. And in that simple act, the galaxy began to change, one name, one memory, and one bond at a time. The docking bay was quiet now, but only in comparison to the chaos above. Ships hovered in anxious circles, diplomats shouted through broken comms, and soldiers still gripped weapons they did not understand. Down below, Elias Rowan stood beside Vorthyrix, the ancient dragon whose scales still shimmered faintly from the touch of life. The dragon's breathing was slow but uneven, a reminder that time was running out. "I cannot last much longer," Vorthyrix rumbled, the sound shaking the floor beneath them. "Centuries have worn me down. My body is weak, yet my mind remembers all I have seen, all I have survived. You remember too." Elias knelt beside him, brushing his hand along the dragon's massive foreleg. "I will remember everything," he said. "Your name, your voice, the places you showed me, the lessons you gave me. You are not alone." The dragon exhaled, a smoky haze curling through the air. "The galaxy fears me, distrusts me, and would erase me if it could. Yet one human stands with me, because memory is stronger than fear. You honor that truth." Elias looked up at him. "I do not honor you for power, or fear, or reward. I honor you because you saved me. Because you trusted me once, and I will not forget. That is my debt." Vorthyrix lowered his head, pressing it near Elias's shoulder. "Debt, yes. A debt older than empires. Long before fleets, before weapons, before politics, there were bonds between those who could see, and those who could be seen. You fulfill one such bond." Elias's fingers rested on the dragon's warm scales. "I am not important. I am just me. But if my memory matters to you, then it is enough." The dragon's golden eyes shone with both sorrow and pride. "Enough? Yes. Humans are fragile, yet you carry memory where others carry fear. You stand in my presence without kneeling to power, without asking for gain. That is what makes you strong." Above, the diplomats continued to argue. "We cannot allow him to leave," one shouted. "If this dragon lives, he will bring chaos to the sector. Strike now." A soldier hesitated, glancing at Elias and the dragon. "He is not attacking," he said. "He listens, and the human, he speaks to it. Something is happening that we do not understand." Vorthyrix rumbled, his voice low and full of ancient wisdom. "Let them rage. Let them threaten. They do not see, and that is their weakness. But you remember. And through that, you hold my debt, my trust, my hope." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of the moment. "Then let me help you. Show me what to do." The dragon shifted slightly, massive wings trembling but unable to lift. "There is a duty I must pass on, a fragment of what I have carried for centuries. It is knowledge, protection, a way to ensure humans are never forgotten, never erased. But it must be shared carefully, with one who sees truly." Elias nodded. "Then I will see. I will carry it. I will protect it. Just tell me what to do." Vorthyrix exhaled slowly, smoke curling around them. "Listen carefully. The galaxy fears memory, because memory cannot be controlled. Names, histories, lessons, these are more powerful than fleets, more powerful than weapons. I pass this to you. Keep it safe. Teach it only to those who see. Forget the rest." Elias focused, letting the dragon's words settle in his mind. "I understand. I will not fail." The dragon lowered his massive head fully, resting it near Elias's shoulder. "Then the debt is yours now," he whispered. "Older than empires, older than stars. Protect it. Honor it. Remember, and you will be stronger than they can ever be." Elias felt a strange warmth fill him. The dragon's trust was heavy, but it did not crush him. Instead, it gave him purpose, a quiet power he had never known. He looked around the bay at the fleets above, at the diplomats and soldiers who still feared the dragon. "The galaxy may never understand," he said softly, "but I do. That is enough for both of us." Vorthyrix exhaled again, slower this time. Sparks flickered across his scales, fading but steady. "Humans, you are small in body, yet your hearts carry what the galaxy forgets. That is why I trusted you once, and why I trust you now. You are my debt-bearer. Carry it wisely." Elias nodded. "I will. I promise." The dragon's eyes closed briefly, exhaustion pulling at him. Good. Remember, memory matters. Names matter. Trust matters. All else is fleeting." For a long moment, neither spoke. The dragon's breathing slowed, but Elias could feel the faint pulse of life still running through him. Outside, fleets hovered, unsure what to do. Diplomats murmured, trying to command, but their voices carried no weight here. The bond between a human and a dragon, memory and trust, was stronger than any blaster, any fleet, any empire. Vorthyrix stirred slightly. "The galaxy fears, but you remember. And through you, I live, even if I cannot rise." Elias placed a hand gently on the dragon's head. "Then live through me. I will remember. I will protect what you taught me. I will honor your debt." A slow rumble of approval passed through the dragon's chest. "Yes, that is all I ask. You are small, yet you carry what empires cannot. That is why you matter. That is why humans, sometimes, are greater than gods believe. Elias smiled faintly. Then let us begin, together. One memory at a time. One bond at a time. The dragon's eyes opened once more, golden and immense. Together, yes. Together. And in that quiet docking bay, an ancient being and a small human stood side by side, bound by memory, trust, and a debt older than empires. Outside, the galaxy raged, confused and fearful. Inside, a bond was forged that no power could break. One human had remembered, and through memory, they both would endure. The dragon lay quietly in the docking bay, his immense body still and battered. Sparks ran faintly along his cracked scales, a reminder of centuries of survival and pain. Elias Rowan sat beside him, feeling the slow pulse of life in a creature older than most civilizations. The galaxy outside continued to hum with activity, fleets hovered uncertainly, diplomats shouted orders they could not enforce, but inside, a silent truth had taken hold. Humans were more than what the galaxy believed. Elias had learned the dragon's secrets, the knowledge he had carried for centuries, and he had promised to protect it. But he had also learned something greater: the galaxy would never understand humans the way Vortherix did. Humans did not need power to make a difference. They did not need weapons or fleets. Their strength lay in memory, in trust, in seeing what others overlooked and remembering it when no one else would. Above, diplomats finally ceased shouting, sensing the strange calm that had settled over the docking bay. Some ships began to lower their weapons, though hesitantly. Soldiers whispered among themselves, unsure whether to follow orders or watch the human who had stood beside a dragon without fear. No one could explain it. No one could challenge it. Elias, a janitor who had swept floors and cleaned corridors, now held a power that fleets and empires could not command, the power of memory and trust. Vortherix stirred slightly, opening one golden eye to look at Elias. "They watch you," he said, voice soft but steady. "They do not understand, yet. And they may never. But through you, they will learn, slowly." Elias nodded. "I do not seek their understanding. I only seek to remember. That is enough." The dragon exhaled a smoky breath, curling around them both. "Humans, you are small, yet your hearts carry what the galaxy forgets. You do not kneel to power. You do not worship fear. You remember. And through that, you shape the stars more than anyone imagines." Elias smiled faintly. "Then we will teach them quietly. Memory, respect, trust, that is stronger than war." Vortherix's massive head rested near Elias's shoulder. "Yes, stronger than war. They will see, eventually, that humans do not demand glory. They do not seek to dominate. They do what is right, even when no one notices." A soft rumble ran through the dragon's chest. "I have lived centuries, seen empires rise and fall. Many have tried to control me, to bend me to their will. Yet one human, and I bend to nothing but trust. That is, rare." Elias ran his hand across the dragon's foreleg. "I do not bend to you. I stand with you. That is all. And the galaxy will learn, in time, that humans do not need to rule to change the world." Outside, the fleets began to withdraw slowly. The diplomats and soldiers were unsure of what to do next. They had expected conquest, or a battle, or a display of terrifying power. Instead, they had witnessed something they could not measure: the quiet strength of a human who remembered, who trusted, who acted not for self, but for bond. Vortherix shifted slightly, letting out a soft, smoky sigh. "I will not last long," he said. "But the knowledge I pass to you, the trust one leave, it will endure. Humans, they will carry it farther than I ever could. And perhaps, the galaxy will remember, through you." Elias nodded, his chest tight with emotion. "I will not fail. I will protect what you have entrusted to me. And I will honor your life, your name, everything." The dragon exhaled one last time, a curling wisp of smoke that glowed faintly in the docking bay lights. "Good, human. You are what I hoped the galaxy could be. Remember, always. And they will see, through you." As Vortherix's body finally went still, a quiet fell over the bay. Sparks from his scales faded to nothing. Elias stayed beside him, silent, mourning and honoring the last of an ancient being. Outside, the galaxy continued, unaware of what had just transpired, but the change had begun. One human, unnoticed by all but a dragon, had reminded the universe of what truly mattered: memory, trust, and the courage to do right when no one is watching. In the days that followed, whispers spread among the fleets and diplomats. Strange occurrences hinted at a shift. Ancient systems and artifacts responded only to humans. Records long thought lost reappeared in unexpected places. The galaxy did not understand why, but Elias knew. It was the dragon's trust, carried in the memory of a human who remembered what the galaxy had forgotten. Elias returned to his janitor work, sweeping floors, fixing broken panels, cleaning corridors. He did not seek glory. He did not announce the dragon's secrets. Yet quietly, through his actions, the galaxy began to learn. Humans could shape the future not by fear, but by memory. They could carry bonds farther than empires. They could stand beside gods, not in submission, but in equality, and leave the universe changed forever. And sometimes, when he worked alone in the quiet maintenance corridors, Elias whispered the dragon's name. Vorthyrix's name. The golden eyes, the ancient voice, the trust passed from one being to another, it lived on in him. One small human, unnoticed by most, had held the galaxy's lesson in his hands. That humans, though fragile in body, were limitless in heart, memory, and courage. The galaxy watched and wondered, fleets paused, and diplomats puzzled. They did not see the change yet, but they would. Humans did not need empires or weapons to leave a mark. One human had remembered, and through that memory, the galaxy began to shift. Names mattered. Trust mattered. Memory mattered. And humans, quiet, unnoticed humans, had shown the universe what it meant to be truly powerful. Elias looked up at the darkened sky beyond the station windows, a small smile on his face. The stars stretched endlessly, but he no longer felt small. He had stood beside a dragon, carried his trust, and remembered what the galaxy had forgotten. And in that, he had changed everything.